Let's try to break down this highly complicated infographic. I feel like they tried to set out and make this the most complicated thing to look at ever. Let's start with the easy small ones. The Visegrad Group is a cultural and political alliance of 4 Central European countries: Czechia, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. It can also be referred to as just the V4. Next to them, we have the Nordic Council. Obviously, these are going to be all Nordic nations. This is an official body for a formal interparliamentary Nordic cooperation among these countries. Similarly to that, we also have the Baltic Assembly. Pretty straightforward. That's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Don't let their similar flags confuse you. These are different nations. So these are like subdivisions of the overarching Europe thing that we're going to get into. I say Europe thing because not all of these countries we've talked about are in the European Union. I'm trying to break down just this window first. Obviously, Iceland and Norway are kind of in a different category. These 2 Nordic nations are in the European Economic Area, but not in the European Union. Hence the name European Economic Area. That's mostly focused on economic affairs. Meanwhile, the EU is economic and political. I hope you're still following. Also, you can be a part of the European Union and not a part of the European Economic Area. Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein, for that matter, have a different classification versus the UK, Switzerland, all the gray nations that are just not in it, which explains why Croatia is here in the Eurozone. You know, before I keep going into this, like, you would think they could just figure out a better system. This is so complicated. There's the deal just between Ireland and UK called the Common Travel Area, because obviously the UK is not a part of the European Union anymore. Monetary agreement between the city-states, that's Monaco, Andorra, and San Marino. Also the Vatican, who is not technically a part of the European political community. Neither is Russia and Belarus. They have their own little group called the Union State, though. Russia is in the BCES, or otherwise known as the Black Sea Economic Cooperation. So you have to be around the Black Sea. The green places are just observer states. Interesting to see Albania and Serbia in a group called the Open Balkan. It's an economic and political zone of 3 member states in that region. There's Guam between Georgia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, and Moldova. This stands for the Organization of Democracy and Economic Development between Post-Soviet States. So these are all countries formerly a part of the USSR but gained their freedom in the 90s. Uzbekistan was formerly a part of that, but not anymore. Let's check out the CEFTA, or basically the Central European Free Trade Agreement. This actually seems like a terrifying combination. Those places don't historically get along all that well. So here's the Eurozone, places that use the euro. And yes, before you ask, you can be in the European Union and not use the euro. We'll see if this continues to grow. I think I've covered everything. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, well, EFTA between Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland. Oh, this was a team formed outside of the EU because all these places aren't exactly in that. I was like, that's such a random group of countries there. It's formed as a response to the European Economic Community, the precursor to the European Union. I think we hit pretty much everything. Just one last thing, the Schengen's area, Schengen Zone. I've talked about this before, an area encompassing 29 European countries that officially abolished border controls. Man, this is a lot to remember. Does this is like a test in high school over here? Like, do you have to be able to define all this stuff? I mean, it could be done. I could see how it could be extremely confusing though.